so now we are at the third part, which asks for the velocity and the speed, right? So velocity means it's a vector, so it has an x and y component. So we basically want these two. Now, which one's easier to find? Well, it looks like we don't know both, but well, we have extra information. We can certainly use the Suvat equations to find them. However, this is almost obvious. Can you see why? I don't even need to do any math to know this. Can you see why? Yeah, exactly. There's no acceleration, right? That's a little trick. Once the more you do this, then you'll start to recognize some tricks and patterns along the way, where if that's 0, you can just directly copy that down. So I actually do know this, right? So I can update it with 12 cosine 30 degrees. And I've got that from my previous answer as well, which is 53 point. Again, don't use the rounded one. Use the unrounded one, 707. So we will put it here. Okay. And yeah, so we know this already. We just need to find this. Now you have choices. Now you can use any kinematics equation you like because you have 4 out of 5 equations. But usually what I do is I will pick equation that doesn't use the previous parts that I calculated, so it's a little bit more sure. And then if I have time at the end of the exam, if I have extra time and spare times to check my answer, I will use another equation that utilizes this answer. So it gives a double check. If they don't match, if they do not agree, immediately use your extra time to change your answer, right? To double check what it is. But hopefully we'll get this right. So I will use one without a t, and I think that's v squared equals u squared plus 2as, right? And we'll do that in the y direction, all right? So I wanted you to see the full page earlier, but I think you get the idea how to present things now. So we will so I'll enlarge this a little bit, right? So to make you don't have to squint that much. Hope this experiment works with this layout. We'll see how well that is. We'll add the y's over here, right? And we'll plug in the numbers, right? This is what I want to find. So I just need to plug in u. That's 12. Was it cosine or sine? I think that was sine. Yeah, I think so. So 30 degrees. And square, don't forget that, minus 9.81. And SY was 100, but minus 100, right? Because it was going down the displacement. And we can I do this in my head? That's a half, right? So that's 12 times a half, that's 6 square. I think I can simplify this a little bit before we go ahead. But like I said, this part is physics, the rest is math, all right? So in terms of grading wise, this is how you should keep in mind. Plus, I have negative, so that's going to be positive. And yeah, let's pull out our calculator for that. 9.81 times 2, that will be 19.62, but times 100, right? So that's plus 1962. Just shift the decimal place a little bit, right? And what's that with 32? No, that's not what I want. I want 1962 plus 36, and that's 1998. All right, is that the answer? No, I still need to square root that. So let's square root my answer. And I get Vy equals to 44.698. Let's go with 699, right? Okay. And what the question asks is the velocity. So let's give both Vx and Vy. So the velocity is 44.699 in the y direction. And also, what was it in the x direction? It's 12 cosine 30 degrees, right? Over here. So let's put that there as well. 12 cosine 30 degrees, which means we should plug that in. 12 cosine, oops, not shift cosine, just cosine 30 degrees. And yeah, so that's 10.392 and 44.699. Okay, is this right? Have I made any mistakes? I think I've made one mistake. Is double check your minus signs, plus or minus. Here, from here to here, I was taking a square root, right? So here was Vy squared. And whenever you take square roots, remember, this is one thing I always at the end just immediately look back and double check all the three things that we mentioned, right? The first thing, second thing, and the third thing, which is any plus or minus or rejecting any answers, check your significant figures and units, right? So there should be a plus or minus over here. And which one should we select? Well, we should select the negative because the Vy is going downwards, right? At the final moment over here, the Vy is pointing down. So this should be negative. So that's fine. That's just math. But the moment I write out my answer, as I present my answer, I need to select the negative version of that. This one, there's only one answer. Just look back up over here, right? So there's no plus or minus. That's just unique answer over there. And it does make sense because you started off with that velocity and you were going to end up with that velocity, no acceleration. So it's in the positive x direction, okay? And the question I also asked for the speed. All right, so the speed is basically the magnitude of that, right? So I can write that, oops, so minus, and that would be 10.392 squared plus minus 44.699 squared, square root. Okay, so we have that squared plus that squared and square root. Now, do I need plus or minus over here? Well, no, because it's a magnitude. So magnitude is always positive. So that's fine. So we have 45.891. We'll go with that. All right. So yeah, let's answer our question. So therefore, let's put it in the proper decimal places. So we will round this to, what did we say? We were given things in 2 sig figs, all right? So we'll just go with 10 over here and minus 45 meters per second. If you like, you can write it in IJK format. 10I minus 45J meters per second. You can put the meter per second outside, you can put it inside. So you can put it here or you can put it here. That's all fine. Okay, and the speed is roughly, again, let's round that to 46 meters per second. Okay, and you can underline your answers. All right, good. So let's see where we are at. And lastly, we also want to find, well, speed and the angle. So that's magnitude and direction, basically. Okay, so to do that, just use all your vector knowledge, right? That's the final velocity. So let's sketch that out. That's 10 units this way and 45 units this way. So I'll just roughly draw it to scale. It doesn't have to be exact, but yeah, we'll go with that. So 10 here, 45. This is the velocity, right? This is the v, and let's give it. Why is it pointing in this direction? Because you're throwing an object over here. So when it lands, it's going to go at this direction. So it all makes sense, all right? So this part you don't have to show. Let's calculate this angle, right? So I would use tangent 45. I know it's minus 45, but I'm just calculating. So this is negative 45, but I'm just calculating this as a right angle triangle, right? So for any right triangle, I can just use your standard middle school, high school trigonometry, to find theta. So that's that. These are all lengths, and you can work with that in our calculator. So inverse tangent 45 over 10, and I get 77.47 degrees. Right? Remember the degrees. If you don't write degrees, it's usually default radians. So be careful of that. So therefore, again, that's math. We need to put it in answers. Let's say the direction is 77, we'll round that to 2 sig figs, 77 degrees below the positive x-axis. Okay, so I have all three information, so that sounds good to me. All right, good. All right, and then next time we need to also find the maximum height, but notice what happens is we need to find a different final point, right? We need to redo the whole thing. So let's look at how we do that in a separate video. So you cannot do that with the same final point, right? So you need to pick a different, well, it's the same initial point, but you need to pick a different final point for that. In fact, I've changed my mind. Let's I've did the problem already ahead, and it's actually pretty simple as well. So why don't we make it an exercise, and I'll let you do it. And I got the answers. You can check it, and I'll delay the. So I'll record the solution now, but I'll delay the posting so you can give it a try and see if you get the same answers. All right. So good luck with that, and see you very shortly.